I wish the roof had never come to me.
I wish none of this had happened.
So do all who live to see such times, but that is not for them to decide. All you have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to you.
Buckle up for safety as I give you a day in the life of online. No, not online. I'm actually there. Facilities maintenance.
Not long after we first acquired the building, indications that there was something wrong started to show up. It began with wind-driven rain coming in from the west and leaking into the classroom on the upper west side of the building. It turns out that what was happening was water was being driven in through the openings where the flashing had not been done correctly. And while that corrected the problem on the west side of the building, it didn't do anything for the east side of the building, where a few months later water started leaking even worse into a different classroom, as the open gaps between the siding and the flashing were even worse. Fast forward a season, where wind, rain, and UV rays from the sun have brought other areas that were not done correctly to the end of their short life, leading to even more water in the classroom on the east side of the building, requiring extensive correction to all the penetration points on the roof surface. And there was peace in the land for yet another year. But as happens every year, winter was coming. And this winter would prove to be no different. It started with what first presented as a leaking window.
Les jours de la semaine sont lundi, mardi, mercredi, jeudi, vendredi. Très bien.
The teacher reported was that there was water kind of splashed here. So it could be coming in through the window itself. But there's no evidence of anything up here. Now part of the problem with water, as you know if you've watched any of my other videos, is that it travels so far. So while my findings were not conclusive, they did warrant closer examination from the outside, and in the interest of not wanting to have to come back up and out here, I sealed along the top of the window, which, if nothing else, would rule out that the window is the issue. As I'm sure you can guess, it wasn't. Which catches you up and leads you to where we are today. The next, and hopefully the last, water leak issue with this roof is this scupper right here. Like Frodo and his friends in The Lord of the Rings, I feel like I'm on some kind of roofing journey, where each time I overcome one obstacle, we're good for a little while, and then another one rears its ugly head. So now I'm gonna go take a look at these scupper drains, because that's what's leaking above the classroom. The best I can figure is that's where the construction company who went bankrupt ended their project, and so all the poorest work was focused in that location. That must have been where they ended the job, basically. And I'm afraid I know what I'm going to find with these scuppers, which means that the repair that I'm going to have to do on this one will actually be a repair that I will ultimately need to do on 8 different scupper drains. I'm not going to repair this today because it's a wet day, and I'd rather do this on a dry day when the area has a chance to be free and clear of water and dry. However, what I am going to do is clean everything as best I can so that on the day that I do take it apart and repair it, I don't have to clean it and wait for it to dry before I can start putting it back together. And I gotta say, that's where my buckets of water up on the roof here do come in handy. And again, why did it take me 4 years to figure this out? I like using a car wash brush for this kind of thing because it has soft bristles and will not damage the roof. Speaking of, now that I have the area cleaned, my guess is that this was not installed, well, it's not a guess. It wasn't installed correctly. If it was, it wouldn't be leaking. The roof is only 3 years old. And like everything else, those guys there, the flashing, buildings like this, they always come with a manual to show all the different parts and whatnot that are required to tell you how things are supposed to be installed. And all this flashing around the roof, it's supposed to be stand-up. And if you don't know what I mean by stand-up, I'll insert a picture right here. That's what a seam looks like in a stand-up flashing example, where the two ends of the flashing come together. What they did here, if you look at this corner, like, these corners don't even, it's just comical how poorly it was done. But what a shame. I have to be careful up here this morning. It's still a little icy in the shade. Yeah, I was afraid of this. Excuse me. I'm trying to talk over here. I was afraid of this. It didn't rain overnight. And as you saw yesterday, I removed most of the water and dried this out. But, yeah. Fortunately, there's a plug-in over here. Yikes, it is slippery. Yeah, I've got a plug-in right there. So I can bring an extension cord up here and bring my heat gun up here and remove as much water as I can from there, then towel it dry and then warm it up with the heat gun to dry it off completely. And I kneeled down and now my leg is wet. I can feel the cold water running down the inside of my pant leg. First things first, I got to get the water out of here and get this dried out. So I'm a little bit frustrated. I went to the roofing store this morning and I actually brought in a sample of the product that I was looking for. It's a Firestone product, and the problem is that Firestone, they're bought out by somebody else. They've changed their product line, and while they have some of the same things, they've also changed all the names of the products. And so you can't go by what something is called, which is why I brought a sample in. And I showed it to them and they said, we don't have that anymore, but you could use this other product. And so I said, okay, I'll take that then. And I took it and I bring it back, and it is not suitable for what I want to use this for. It's a seam tape that's designed to, after properly prepping 2 sheets of EPDM material, then you lay down this seam tape in between the 2 sheets. to join the two sheets together. That's not what I'm looking for. I need something that can be exposed, that can handle UV rays and all the rest of that. So I still need to make this repair. I have to do it with what I have. I'll show you what I've got. So this is essentially a sample piece of what I brought in to show them what I was looking for. What they sold me is not this, sort of. What you can see peeking out along the edge here is the seam tape material. They sold me a roll of this seam tape, but it's not bonded to this heavy duty rubber material that I need it to be. This is like a peel and stick, and I just got a little bit of this. If I had a 6-inch wide 50-foot roll of this, I'd have enough to do all of the scuppers on this roof. So between this piece and a little bit I've got left here, I have enough to be able to make a repair of this, which is our problem child right here, and I can make the repair and it won't leak. Come spring, I will be going around and repairing all of them. So I think the first thing I need to do here is start dismantling things and see what I'm working with. Or do I want to do that? At this point, because I can't, I want to figure out how these things have been put together. If I look at this, I can definitely see, here's the edge of this here. There's an edge here, right? I can see an edge, and it goes all the way around, comes up the other side. That's how that one is over there. That's how all the other ones are, except I found another one up here that is different. It's actually one of these ones that's not draining one of the classrooms. These were modular buildings, units that were transported here and set into place. This is a hallway, or the roof over a hallway connecting the two buildings, and they put a scupper in here. But what is different, if you look here, is this one has no lip around the edge. What they did is they put in the compression ring to accept this grate. But what else is there here? There's no... This compression seal here is not meant to be your one and only seal insofar as sealing out the water here from getting in behind the membrane. At least that's my understanding of a proper scupper installation. Feel free to comment if you are a roofer and you know differently, because there should be a visible flange here that's nailed in, and then seam tape down the sides and top and bottom. I'm not seeing any of that here. I think for now, I'm reticent to tear all of this apart. I don't want to go down this rabbit hole at this point in time. I need to come back and repair all of them properly at some point in time. And so I'm going to just continue drying this out and seal this up with seam tape. And that will get us through the winter, and I will address this again next spring. Because I didn't install this, I don't know if this compression ring component here has anything to do with the sealing of the actual scupper drain. I don't think it does. I think the bosses that this bolts into are built into the scupper drain, and this part here just sits on top of the membrane. So the fact that water gets underneath it, I think that's irrelevant. But it's weird, eh? Like I'm seeing the edge of something here that in my mind should exist on that other scupper that has nothing on it. Something's lifting and separating right here. we'll pull this flange off just to get a look at it and see what it reveals underneath it or behind it. Hey, these aren't over tight, which is good. I wouldn't want to tighten these up too much because then it could deform or crack the scupper itself. I think these edges are our only problem. In my mind, this scupper has a flange around it like this. I think that's what I'm looking at here, but I couldn't know that for sure unless I literally cut all of this away. I wish I had a new one of these, then I could compare it. But yeah, there's dirt behind there, which just tells you that that's definitely been a leak point. I want to pull this apart so badly, but again, I've got such a short window to actually deal with this, stop it from leaking. I wonder if this is some type of tape that they put on the sides here, except that it's... No, it can't be. It's like I see a double edge. I see an edge of something way over here, and I see another edge of something right here. You know, the fact that that other one doesn't seem to have any flange around the outside edge is really kind of bugging me. But then it dawned on me, these modular units that were built off-site and then brought in, I think they kind of come like kits, you know what I mean? Like, they come with all the parts. So you open up the box and go, okay, there's our scuppers, let's put them in. Where that section, which comprised the hallway that was framed by hand and built, there's no guarantee that that's the same type of scupper as the other 7. So that could be a possibility, that it's just a different one. What I'm not seeing or feeling around here though are any mechanical fasteners. This should have been nailed or screwed in place prior to their attempt at, you know, I think this might be some type of edging that they did on this, but it's way too narrow. If this is the edge of the scupper flange, which you see, I've got a straight edge right there, which is right here. But then there's this as well. So what is this? That's the problem. If you don't install it yourself, or if you don't take the whole thing apart and then put it all back together. So it is a copper scupper down there. This may have been, they might have put the scupper under the rubber membrane and then folded stuff over top of that. If they did that, that's incorrect. You should have your rubber roof membrane, your little curb here, your hole cut in here. You could see wood here, and the scupper slides in with the flange exposed on the outside,
which you would then nail in place around the perimeter of the flange using copper nails, and then seam seal all the way around.
At least that's my understanding of how to install a scupper. If this has got a negative slope on it and water is running back, and this is not sealed around the edge here, that could be the source or another source of our leaking here. So we've got this picking up on the edge here. We've definitely got some kind of crack going on here. This could have negative slope on it. At the end of the day, if that's negative slope, these all need to come out and be reinstalled. Yeah, definitely a spring project. I will seal that as best I can. I do have a product that should be able to seal that up. Ay. Well, I'm gonna get my heat gun in there, dry that out, so I can seal it. If I push down on the edge of where the rubber meets the road, I can squeeze water out from there. So I do think I've got, yeah, that scupper has a negative slope on it, definitely. So many things wrong. Whoever installed this just did not understand that water runs downhill. Here, let me get you a view from this side. This edge here, if I press on it, I was squeezing water out of this. So I am thinking that water could also be kind of backflowing underneath whatever they've done here. So that seam is sealed, at least for the time being. So I've eliminated that as a possibility for why this thing is leaking. And so next up, I'm just going to hit the front here. I don't know what this big knob is here. I think I'll try and trim it down. I'd like to make the whole surface as flush as possible before I apply any seam tape. Okay, that is sealant, and I am seeing some seam tape here. Okay, I can see what they've done here. The piece of seam tape that they used on the sides starts here. It only comes out to here. It should be like a 3-inch overlap on each side of the flange. They used a very narrow strip. What is it, 2-inch wide? So here's the edge of it here. Here's the top of it. So it's coming down to here. So it's a very little narrow strip. Let's assume it's the same on the other side. I think it is. I can see the edge right here. The problem is that they've got the edge of it here. Then I can see the edge of another piece of seam tape up here, but it ends here. It should extend to at least the far edge of this and this, which these are too narrow. It should be wide. So this top piece should come all the way out to here and here. But it's this tiny little, it's a tiny little piece of 2-inch wide right here that isn't, it may be overlapping the top of the flange of the scupper, but it's not overlapping the seam tape that was put up the sides. It should be. Yeah, I'm seeing the edge of it here. This piece of tape, there's the tape. So what's happening here is this seam tape is clearly not doing its job. It'll be nice come spring when we've got nice weather and I can just pull this whole thing out of here and redo it completely. I'm not going to do that today. I had in mind that I might actually do that today, pull it all out, but I need to pull it out to see what I'm working with, to then figure out steps to move forward. Essentially what I should do is just buy a new scupper buy a new compression seal, have proper seam tape with me, rip this out completely, and do a fresh install completely. That would be the best way to do this. At this point, I just need to get us through the winter. Now, if you're wondering why I'm not going across the top, it's because I don't have enough of this material to do that. The issue isn't with the top, so for this temporary repair, I'll do what I have enough to do. I just have to wait for this to flash over now. And you know, I'm not going to put this grate on. Eventually I will, but I'm not going to put it on today. We don't get any leaves up here, so there really isn't anything for it to stop. So it would have been nicer to be able to repair this with full pieces. These are the remnants of what I had left over. Hopefully what I've done here and down the chute there will prevent this from leaking. That'll get us through the winter, and then I can deal with them all properly in the springtime. So with that, I will say thanks for watching. I do appreciate it. If anybody has any tips or suggestions on how I could do this, because this is the first time dealing with a scupper drain issue for me, I'm happy to receive suggestions. And yeah, I guess as far as these scuppers go, perhaps I'll see you in the spring. As far as everything else goes, I'll see you in a few days. Thanks for watching. See you later. I guess this means it's time to clean up.